Hello and welcome to Write Bite number 2. I'm Chris Kilgore, Writing Resource Coordinator for the School of Social Work at the University of Texas at Arlington, and this Write Bite will make the odd claim that there's no such thing as good writing. People always give me a funny look when I say that. They say, hey, you're the writing guy, you're not supposed to say that. Well, what I mean by that is there's no such thing as a kind of writing that will work equally well in all situations. There's only writing that becomes effective for a specific audience in accomplishing a specific task within a specific context or situation. So I don't usually like to moralize about writing. I don't usually say good or bad writing. I'd rather talk about effective writing. As you've probably already noticed, even academic writing varies quite a bit. College writing addresses different audiences with different purposes from what we do in high school. The bar is usually higher in terms of content, task, and specificity. So what counts as effective writing changes by the level of writing that we're doing. Also, what works well in an English class probably works so well in a social work class or a psychology class or a history class. Each of these different disciplines has different audiences in mind, and those audiences have different expectations for effective writing, so we need to pay attention to what kind of endeavor we're engaged in. Most importantly, though, you may have already noticed that the kind of writing that you do for one social work class may not necessarily work in another social work class. That's because even within one discipline, there may still be different audiences, tasks, and contexts. And I like to call the whole rhetorical situation, audience, task, context, and the way that the assignment responds to it, that whole thing is what I call a genre. So, just like there's a difference between the audiences and effects in a science fiction genre versus a mystery genre or a suspense genre or a romance genre, there's also a difference between clinical writing, policy-oriented writing, and research-oriented writing in the discipline of social work. So what works well for one kind of assignment may not necessarily work well for another kind of assignment. I do have a few general principles that usually apply to most academic writing, however. We want, first of all, to be able to be precise about what we have observed or what claims we want to make. We want to be able to use words that present the reader with specific examples rather than vague generalizations. And we want to use rigorous critical thinking to make sure our writing serves the kind of purpose the audience expects. You'll notice that things like clarity or jargon or formal language or elevated diction are not on this list, and that's on purpose. The meaning of those words can change quite a bit depending on the context. As I mentioned earlier, different disciplines and different assignments within the same discipline will call for different kinds of clarity, different kinds of diction. But the imperative for precision, specificity, rigor, and purpose usually will stay the same. That's all for Write Bite number 2, but you'll notice that I mentioned an important idea. Social work assignments often differ from each other in terms of audience, in terms of task, in terms of context, and constitute separate genres of writing. What are those genres? We'll find out in Write Bite number 3, coming up next.